Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 447 of the Juicebox Podcast. Today, we're going to talk to Josh, who's got quite a story of diagnoses. Diagnoses? Definitely diagnoses. He's got quite the story. A year ago, in March 2020, Josh got sick. And after that, he was diagnosed with... Maybe I shouldn't even tell you. Well, 3 things happened to him that Josh thinks might be from that illness. I'm definitely not going to give you all the details. Just trust me and settle in and listen. It's an interesting story. We're going to dedicate the first bit of the show to Josh just laying it all out for you. And then it turns into more of a back and forth and the conversation opens up. But wait till you hear the crazy stuff that's happened to this man. Please remember that nothing you hear on the Juicebox Podcast should be considered advice, medical or otherwise. Always consult a physician before making any changes to your healthcare plan or becoming bold with insulin. There's no ads on this one today, just a couple of announcements, then we get right into the conversation. Okay, if you're looking for the Diabetes Pro Tip episodes, they begin at episode 210, and they're also available at diabetesprotip.com. Perhaps you have a great diabetes practitioner, or you're looking for one. One way or the other, if you've got one to share, or you're looking to find a new one, check out juiceboxdocs.com. It's a great list that's being built by listeners just like you. Just think of it as like that little penny thing at the convenience store, where you like give a penny, take a penny. I don't think they let us do that anymore, but you remember it. Give a doctor or take a doctor. And last thing, please consider supporting the good work being done by the T1D Exchange. Your participation will take just a few moments, but the impact of your kindness will last forever. The T1D Exchange is looking for type 1 adults and type 1 caregivers who are U.S. residents. They'd like you to participate in a quick survey that can be completed. We did it in 7 minutes. And you can do it on your phone or your computer, right there from your house. You don't have to go anywhere. You don't have to go to a doctor's office. And you're still helping with type 1 diabetes research. After you finish their questions, you'll be contacted annually to update your information just in case anything's changed. And you may be asked further questions. This is 100% anonymous. It is completely HIPAA compliant. It never requires you to see a doctor. And you can back out of it at any time if you'd like to. But your personal information will never be attached to the answers that you give. Now, every time someone completes the process using my link, t1dexchange.org/juicebox, the podcast will also benefit. So if you've been looking for a way to help type 1 research, or the podcast, or maybe both, nothing could be easier or more beneficial. The study is looking for up to 6,000 participants, so there's plenty of space for you. The information that past participants have offered has helped to bring increased coverage for test strips, Medicare coverage for CGMs, and changes to the ADA's guidelines for pediatric A1C goals. Super simple to do. You'll really be helping other people with type 1 diabetes, and it can be done again at the T1D Exchange, t1dexchange.org/juicebox. We're recording, so don't say exactly, but what part of the country are you in?
Oh, I'm very close to you, I think. I'm not sure if you're in North Jersey or Southern Jersey, but I'm at the top of the Chesapeake Bay.
Oh, no kidding. I'm just interested that you can be on your porch. Is it heated?
Right. Well, heated. It used to be a concrete thing, then I glassed it in. So it's pretty well insulated.
Nice. Now I just woke up this morning and I was like, please, why is it snowing again? Like, please stop. I know people like it, but I don't.
Well, our family has a hardware store, so I'm just happy to sell everybody ice melter.
I was going to say buckets of salt and scrapers and turn into a specialty store.
Last year, we didn't sell any of that stuff. It was just, if it did snow, it turned to rain right away or whatever.
Yeah. When that happens, you just stick that stuff in the back and sit on it for a year?
Yeah, for the most part. We have a inside place to store it. So, it keeps pretty good, but
right.
Shovels keep better than the salt for sure. Yeah,
But I'm just thinking you're staring at something you already paid for that you can't sell for another year. That's got to be pretty, that's kind of
Welcome to the world of retail, right?
Yeah, no kidding.
My name's Josh. I guess I'm just here to tell you my story.
Yeah. You have a good one too, Josh. So I don't even know. There are some people's stories that I think there's an obvious jumping in point. And for yours, I don't believe there is. So I'm just going to start slow with, how long have you had diabetes? What was it like being diagnosed? That kind of stuff.
Sure. Well, I'll give you my whirlwind story. I know you like to do the same thing I do and kind of, go on tangents and stuff. So I'll kind of hit you with the story and then we can take it from there. So about this time last year, my youngest daughter, I got two. One's 12 right now. One's 14. My youngest got the flu, right? Everybody gets the flu. No big deal. I called the pediatrician. They were like, it's going around. Keep her hydrated. If it doesn't spike above this, we don't need to see her, kind of thing. So my parents live right next door. She stayed home with them for the day, and then by the end of that day, my mom was sick. My dad's like, I think you're going to have to watch her tomorrow. So I stayed home with her, and next thing you know, I had the flu. So the three of us were all dying on the couch or whatever for a week, no big deal. The few couple days go by and the weekend rolls around. I start feeling a little better. I go back to work. I'm on the sales floor doing whatever, and still have that little bit of that lingering cough that was going around for the last couple of years. Just can't quite shake.
Yeah.
The next thing you know, that next Thursday, I woke up in the morning and my hand was tingly. And I'd broken that wrist in high school, and it didn't really think that it was something serious. I thought I don't know, slept on it wrong or whatever. Right, I'm in my 40s now, so I kind of dismissed it for a day, and then the next day, my face went kind of tingly down by my left hand side of my jaw, like I just had tooth surgery or something. I took that one a little more seriously, but still, like a typically stubborn guy, I didn't go to the doctors or anything. So. The weekend rolls around and I kind of just take it easy. The kids are I'm divorced. The kids are at their mom's that weekend. So lounge around the house, try to get ready for the next week. So I still felt, terrible that Sunday. So, I said to my dad, I think I'm going to, go in to see the walk-in clinic tomorrow. So, because I figured, why see my regular doctor? They're probably going to x-ray my hand or something. So he takes the kids to school. I go into the clinic there, and they're like, "Hey, we think you're having a stroke." And I was like, "Whoa, really?" So I get to the hospital, and they run a bunch of tests and stuff, and sure enough, like not like one of those little mini strokes. I always do things like full bore. So I had an actual stroke, and my hand and my face were being controlled by a part of the brain that adjusts sensitivity. So my hand kind of felt like it's permanently dipped in ice or something. It's been that way for the last year. But this is how I found out, because I hear these different stories from your different podcasts. They were like, "So how long you been diabetic?" And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And my A1C was apparently 13, and I think I was like at 12 or 1300 for my sugars at the time.
Wow.
But it wasn't just that. My all my organs were infected, right, of something. Some unknown yet unknown undiagnosed virus that may or may not have been COVID. I'll get to that in a minute. But so every organ was infected, right? So my heart fraction rate was like 40%. They couldn't figure out what had caused that. It didn't seem like it was a heart attack, but it wasn't beating right. And, my kidneys and my pancreas and all that stuff weren't right. So, a couple of days go by, they get me, feeling a little better. They start showing me how to inject myself with a pen and scoot me out the door, and off I go. Right. So I go to the pharmacy and I pick up a couple pens. Right. And then I got a bunch of doctors follow-up visits with that, and, go home, so the hand's still tingly, face still numb, whatever. And then, there I sit trying to deal with all that. And the one thing I'll say, which I think I keep hearing over and over from you, is there must not be enough endocrinologists in the world. I mean, there really must not be, because I left the hospital, and I had an appointment immediately for a cardiologist, and I had a appointment that they scheduled for endocrinologist. And I didn't really look at it. But, turns out it was like 3 months down the road, so another thing I'll say is I found out like way after the fact that apparently my health insurance provider actually provides, depending on your situation, they provide on-call nurses that you can speak to. And I wish I had known that, then, because I kind of struggled around. I had some, friends and family that had either kid with diabetes or had diabetes or, some level of understanding a little more than the average person. But, I was kind of left with, here's a pen, have at it, and it was that, every time you eat, shoot 8, and
Right.
and watch and test yourself, right? Here's a non-Bluetooth meter, from the insurance company that, write all your stuff down. And I was like, whoa, this seems daunting, right? I'm a fairly smart guy, but so my first kind of thing was to deal with the heart basically, and the diabetes. So my first set of appointments was the cardiologist, right? I was like, I got to try to find another doctor, get in or something with the endocrinologist, but I'll put that off and go to the cardiologist. So the cardiologist, of course, they do a stress test, they run a bunch of stuff. I'm in there, life is normal. Now I have to tell you that the week of the flu was like Valentine's Day. So it's really almost like a full blown year.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next week, was the last week of February last year. And then so I got into the hospital and out of the hospital like the March 2nd through the 5th. So, now this part of the story, I'm like the second week of March. So I go and have fairly normal experience at the cardiologist. They give me a heart monitor, put me on that to kind of try to figure out why my heart was doing the things it was doing. Nobody was talking about some massive pandemic viral infection going around.
Right.
So, so I leave with this heart monitor. And I have to tell you that when I had it for 2 weeks and I went to turn it back in, and now they have a box outside, and I gotta like go drop it off like some kind of spy. And they're going to hold it there for a couple of days and spray it down because they don't understand what COVID is or how it works or anything like that. But, when I dropped it off, we're talking like St. Patrick's Day. And that's when everybody and their mom had COVID, right? It's just, it's just exploding and nobody knows what to do. So that's kind of how it all started, and then what happened there was, as you may or may not know, I hope you guys didn't have any personal experiences with this, but quote unquote elective surgery just shut down for like the year,
Yeah.
like, so it was just like shut down.
And that's more than people think too. Like when people hear elective surgery, they think like, oh, I can't get a nose job because of COVID, but there's other things that like knee replacements and things that really impact people's lives that they just weren't doing at that time.
Oh yeah. So I have a friend of the family that he had a heart transplant right before COVID, and then when COVID started, he was a missed rehab. And then when rehab, when the COVID started, rehab shut down. Mm-hmm. And then the insurance company gives you so many weeks of rehab. So you started rehab, you didn't do rehab, you can't start it back up. So he just got, screwed out of half of his rehab. That's just how that worked. Now some of these companies are making some, but you look at my problems. And I feel like they're severe, but they're minor compared to some other testing. People aren't getting biopsies during this time period, right? They're pushing off cancer treatments because they don't even know if they have cancer or not. I can't imagine how, because I was pretty stressed about this heart stuff. And so, I'm talking to the doctor. Most of it's at virtual, like we're doing now, we're FaceTiming or whatever, talking to the doctor about different stuff. And what he really wants to do is what they call catheterization, where they go up there and they look at the heart with a tube. And then usually while they're in there already, they decide if they need to put a stent in or something. So they want to do that really bad. They want to check out the heart. They want to see what's going on because they can't quite figure it out. Now, I'll skip ahead to the end and maybe go back to the middle or something, but so he wants to do this catheterization, keeps putting it off. We can't get in. We can't do anything. So so finally, him and I kind of mutually decide that we're going to do a CAT scan of the heart. They don't usually do that because it yields the same information as just going in there and then fixing it at the same time. Mm-hmm. So do that CAT scan in June, and they're like, "Oh yeah, just like we thought. Looks like a mild blockage." I don't know that that's what caused whatever happened, but we go in there and clean it up. In and out same day. Put a little stent in there. No big deal. No big deal. Open heart surgery. No big deal. So I'm in my 40s. I'm like, all right, well, I like bacon. I'm sure I've got a little bit of clog going on in there. Whatever. That's good if it's just one artery. Whatever. We'll go get it cleaned up in and out. So it's now we're talking the end of June. July they schedule this. Mid-July they schedule this stent surgery. It really is a relatively benign procedure. Things have loosened up a little bit with COVID, but not really. So they go in there. Or I'm sorry, let me back up. The way it works, which I don't know if you've had any experience with any surgeries, minor or otherwise, during this whole thing, but they say that I have to go get a COVID test before I go and do the surgery, right? Make sure I don't have it going into the surgery. So, okay. So they say you need to do it within 72 hours. Now, my grammar differs from theirs because what they meant was 72 hours. So I was hoping to do it like the day before or something, but I had to do it a couple of days in advance. So I go in there to do it, then they're like, "Hey, by the way, you can't go to work or anything," because we're essential business. Like I might have said, I don't know if it's on tape or not, but we have a hardware store. It's retail. We're open. We're considered essential in the state. We're selling stuff and doing stuff like normal. So,
but you get your COVID test, and then they want you to go sit by yourself until it's time for the surgery. Because if you're negative, and then you go bump into somebody,
exactly.
So you didn't know that either.
So my kids went to they were just happenstance though at their the first week of a 2-week stay at their mom's house for her like summer vacation time. So I kind of had purposely planned that surgery on a Friday, a middle of their thing. But as it turns out, I'm now I'm home alone, to my own devices for a couple of days before the little tiny minor surgery, right? So we lived down by the water, went out on the bay, messed around on the kayak for a couple hours a day, no big deal. I had I'm sort of getting this diabetes thing, right? I got my Apple Watch on. I got all my stuff to be safe, messing around the kayak, I got a little, snack or something if in case I get low. I've got that all handled. But, I'm out there messing around the kayak for a couple hours, go, all alone, come back inside, do that for a couple days, go in, have this surgery, and then they go in, they come out, and they're like, "We didn't do the surgery. You need a 5-way bypass. So try not to sweat it. We're going to do it on Tuesday. Just stay here in the hospital." So then then you're just sitting there. Like it would have been way better if I just woke up with 5 bypasses. But I don't know if you heard me correctly. So that's 5 bypasses.
Yeah.
So
Josh, let's pick through that for a second.
Stent.
So it went from, "Hey, you're going to get a stent. This is really no big deal," to, and so can you describe to people what a bypass is? Do you know? Like, did they explain, or did you just close your eyes and go, "Hey, just do it. I'll be okay"? I don't want to know.
Yeah, no. I would say anybody getting a bypass, maybe don't Google it and watch the YouTube videos on it or whatever. But the down and dirty is they the arteries going in and out of the heart, right? They just cut them loose and reattach some stuff. It's like you're just like traffic, just like a bypass around a city or whatever. And they put new pieces in there. So they get those new pieces. If it's one bypass, they get it from someplace up in your chest somewhere, I believe. And if it's like 5, they take a big chunk out of your leg. So they just cut me down by the knee and down by the ankle, and they just jerk out an artery and cut it into pieces and put it around my heart. So I was fortunate enough to have the head of the team work on me, and that was fantastic. I don't know that I had any kind of special pull. It just happened to be that way, but that guy did a fantastic job. And I was the youngest one in the ward, I can say by far. had a little rough time with needed a little blood, right after or something. But after that, I bounced up there and was pretty much walking around on my own. I'm not a big advocate of opioids or anything, right? So the first thing they do is pop a bunch of oxy in you, and then I'm like, I don't want that, so I'm toughing it out with Tylenol and stuff, and fighting to go home because I had the surgery on my youngest daughter's birthday, so that was kind of nervy.
Yeah.
I told the doctor he's not allowed to kill me on my kid's birthday.
Yeah, it's exactly what I would have said, by the way.
Yeah. So anyway, I go home. I'm home for like a week. My parents live right next door. I might have mentioned that. They wanted me to stay with them. I love my parents. It's one of those things where I moved out for a reason when I was a kid, right? We drive each other a little nuts when we're in the house, and mom smothered me, that kind of stuff. So a couple of days there was plenty. Went back to my house on my own.
It's a good test for your heart right away.
Yeah. Yeah. So then, like a week later, we have a standing thing where a buddy of mine from college that incidentally lives north of you, slightly, and a buddy of mine from college and a buddy of mine from the next state over, we all kind of convene and we go down to the Outer Banks every summer. So I had asked the doctors, I'm like, can I go down to the Outer Banks? And they were like 2 weeks after the surgery, they were like, they were like, sure. You can't drive, you can't lift anything. You can't really, carry anything up the stairs. You really should stay out of the sun. Can't get in the water, but have at it. So I was like, well, that sounds fine. Cause that's like my therapy for the year, right? Go down there and just do nothing. So, the kids helped me pack, which was fantastic. And then my buddy from New Jersey came down and met us, just outside of town. And my dad, kind of couried my car over there, and then my buddy drove me all the way down there, which was wonderful. That was really one of those vacations where you really appreciate the vacation.
Just
then I came back for like a week or two. I guess it was like 3 weeks. I was going to start cardiac rehab, but they couldn't start it because of COVID till like Labor Day. And I did that till Thanksgiving while I was working, right? 3 days and working, taking some time off. And here we are, I guess. So I don't know. You got any questions? I feel like you might have some questions.
That's crazy, Josh. Okay. So let's start slow. You stay right on the water in the Outer Banks? Cause I've been there twice and we've gone to the 4x4 houses both times. So you like drive onto the beach, drive like 3 miles up to the beach to your house, and you have to have a 4-wheel drive car to get to it. That's very relaxing. Yeah.
So you're what? You're in the north end of the Outer Banks when you're doing that?
Sort of up by where the where the wild horses are. So God, what is it called? I haven't been there in a while. I can't think of it now.
Like Duck or something?
Yeah. I've been to Duck and maybe not quite that far up once too. But
yeah, so we go the other way. We've been for about a decade now. We've been going down to Buxton, which is Hatteras Island, which is we're right next to the Hatteras Lighthouse in a little duplex with like say my two other buddies' families, and it's kind of nice. The duplex is right on the dune, whatever. So we typically could go over to Ocracoke, you take the ferry over there. And, the good and bad of Buxton is there's literally nothing to do, but what there is to do there, this little putt and sandwich shop and grocery store, all kind of in walking distance, which was good because I couldn't drive my truck. So, my buddies are all super helpful, for sure. But, you're trying to regain your independence a little bit, but, and you want to do some stuff. It's kind of hard to remember at this point in the story. I can't lift 10 pounds, that's a milk jug, right? Like you want to get out there and do something, but you can't even, carry a sack of groceries up the stairs. Right? But I was walking on my own. I wasn't using a walker or anything. I mean, I was bouncing around. You just got to be careful because apparently, I guess this part I left out of the story, but the other thing they do besides cut that piece out of your leg to put in your heart is they just, they have to get to your heart. Right. So they just bone saw, your breastplate and just rip it open like in some kind of, alien movie or something. And then they just, wrap some metal wire around it to hold it closed, and they super glue you shut.
Josh, I don't know if you
got to be a little careful.
I don't know if you ever cook a chicken at home. You were spatchcocked. Do you know the phrase?
Right. Yes. Yeah, exactly.
Wow. Strong likelihood. This episode's called Spatchcock Josh, but it just that's fascinating. So they just boom because they got to get there. I didn't even think of that. I have to tell you, I freaked out when you talked about pulling the piece they needed out of your leg. That actually that sent a chill right up my spine into the base of my skull, and I almost passed out. I was like, oh, what the hell? So I can't imagine having it done. But like you said, 2 weeks later, even that battered, you were able to just like go anywhere is pretty fascinating. And how long ago was this now? March, April?
So the stroke was in March, but the open heart surgery was the end of July.
Okay. Now, so we have to pick through this a little bit. So you had a stroke, major reconstruction of your heart, and found out you had type 1 diabetes all in this one thing, and you were sick prior. Have you ever had did you ever get an antibody test, or did they not exist at that point to see if you had COVID?
Yeah. So I don't know. I can really say this part, but I have a friend that has a sibling that works for the government. So I was able to get one, the early ones, but that was still like about 3 months after it all happened. It was like April or something. And so we took one of those and came back negative. And then several months after that, like I don't know, the beginning of June or something, I was able to go to like LabCorp and get a blood, more official blood test. And both of those came back negative. So, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I had COVID, but like if I didn't have COVID, I have all the stuff that they're saying COVID does.
Okay.
So one of my friends said, hey, you're probably the only person existing on Earth that could get like some other, super weird viral infection during a pandemic of another super weird virus.
Well, but
so,
something
I don't know.
Up, though. I mean, first of all, I have to say, this is such a great Jersey conversation because you're like, I know a guy that got me a thing, like it.
Like I say, we're in Maryland, but we're close enough, I guess.
No, but still, like, it's got that vibe. Like you've been here before and it's obvious. So, no, but seriously, the East Coast in general is just such a great feeling. You're just like, I got a friend. He took care of it. But so, okay. So something obviously happened. You had some sort of a viral problem and it just attacked everything, but it didn't cause you to need 5 bypasses. That was just bad genetics or hard living or something like that, right?
Well, I don't know. Now they're saying if you look it up, now they're saying that COVID causes quote unquote rapid plaque buildup because nobody can explain how I went from the chest X-ray showing, a little minor blockage to everything blocked like 100%. I would have died if they didn't do it right away. So they're all kind of like, but we don't have any evidence. But yeah, probably, and nothing against the cardiologist that did all this work to start with, but either he's really screwed up, and looking at the chest X-rays, or
there was a quick progression.
I had some kind of a rapid plaque buildup.
Yeah. See, I just assumed when you
said my grandfather is 97.
Right.
Everybody seems healthy in our family, so I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. See, I just assumed when you said it that they misread the first test and then got in there and was like, oh, this isn't what we thought. But I see what you're saying. And I have recently seen an article about that, about the rapid plaque through COVID. And
yeah, they're saying COVID does the same thing that, a lot of the conversations are about the lungs.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't really have much lung issue other than I had this nasty, like whooping cough for, the week after the flu. But, it's also doing stuff where it's kind of clotting, it's either going for the heart or it's causing strokes, it's causing aneurysms, it's causing different problems in different organs. And like I say, when it all started, I had all that. I mean, my regular primary care doctor, she ran a bunch of tests, she's like, well, let's make sure it's not hepatitis, I don't even know what there are, like A, B, C, D, E, F, G, we're going to check them all. We got like 9 vials of blood that I had to draw. We're just going to run every test there is. And then after that, we did some more blood work like a month later, and turns out every organ's working fine, except for this whole pancreas thing. Right. So, I mean, I know we're diabetic conversation, but so I didn't see a doctor about my diabetes again until like the end of May, going back from March. And from that time in between, I didn't know what kind of diabetic I was. And I seemed to be responding like a type 1, but, I don't know, type 1, type 2. I didn't know what I was. Nobody told me. So when I finally got to see somebody, I asked, right? So then we did some blood work, and it seems like my pancreas is working a little bit, but, damaged all the same. So I guess that's that 1A that we talk about a little bit. I think I'm officially diagnosed as a 2, so I don't know, if we're still in that, what do you call it? That Cinderella period or whatever. I've been doing great with the blood sugars. I went from 13 to 5.4 in the hospital,
right.
And then back in December, I was back up a little bit to like 5.7. I accredit a lot of it to you because, I didn't get a lot of help until I finally got a chance to talk to the doctor. And then, she's just kind of like, here's this. And I'm like demanding a continuous glucose monitor. I'm like demanding a pump. So I got the glucose monitor in May, and I got a G6, which I love. Cool. And then I got the pump, which is Omnipod. I got it while I was in the hospital. I got it while I was in the hospital for the open heart surgery, and they were like, "Whoa, let's wait a week or two to put that baby on." So after I got back from the beach, I got the training for that and put that on. So that was like mid-August or something that I got that. And that's where I really started to be able to control my sugars and stuff, because before, I'm taking a pen, taking a long-acting insulin, at night. Mm-hmm. They tell me to take it at night. I'm not sure why, because it seems like the way the cycles work and stuff that brought me down more often than not. In the middle of the night. I think it probably should have been taking it during the morning or something.
Right.
But I had the 2 pens, and I was taking the other one. Taking 1 to 10, for whatever I was eating, trying to eat real good and trying to get, only 40 units or whatever, 40 carbs, doing all that basic math, but I'm shooting up, and then I'm eating a sandwich or something. Right. Mm-hmm. And you're seeing those big up and down spikes. And, I cannot stress this enough. I know I keep following your group on Facebook and stuff, and you keep hearing the same questions over and over again, but, the pre and extended bolus is like, what does it? If you're just jamming yourself with a pen, you can't really do that. You can't do that without a pump. But even if you have a pump, you have to do that. You can't just eat and then like watch it start to go up and then start to dose yourself and hope for the best, right? You have to do more.
Yeah, you got to find the right timing and use the insulin where it's needed.
Right, there's a science to it.
Hey, so is it possible? It's such an interesting look, right? Because you're obviously very involved with your health, and probably you weren't a year ago, but still you're involved in it. You're paying attention to what's happening. And isn't it crazy that nobody can really tell you exactly what happened? Like maybe you got a virus that puts you into like multiple like system failures, and at the same time started diabetes. Is that possible? Like, is there any autoimmune in your family line? Do people have celiac, hypothyroidism, type 1? Do you see that anywhere in your family?
No, not at all. Not at all. I mean, my mom has a sister that passed away about a year before this conversation started, and she was a type 2 diabetic. She had been heavy. She had, she'd lost some weight. She loved sweet tea, right? So I'm not sure that she managed it the best of her ability, and she was doing that with, mainly with pills, and then finally with some insulin, I believe. But none of that. I had an uncle that had a heart valve surgery, but that was a defect from birth or something, which is completely different than a bypass. So, we're all relatively healthy. I mean, there's some skin cancer, there's some other stuff that's popped up in the family, but nothing that explains this.
Yeah. How about your girls? They were both sick at the same time too. Are they okay?
Just one, which is
one
weird
was
too.
sick. I'm sorry.
My oldest, we're in the same house, and my oldest was fine. My dad was fine. But my youngest, she got this, and I guess like you're hearing about most kids with COVID and stuff, there's some weird symptoms and stuff, but she basically just had the flu. We didn't even, it didn't even dawn on us that this could have been COVID till it started kind of, just progressing, and you start reading about some of the different symptoms and stuff, and they're like, well, you might have had COVID, Yeah.
It's that timing and in those beginning months where nobody really, first of all, it was here in January and we weren't aware of it at all. I mean, when do you really feel like America became aware of it? In the first or second week of March?
I put it right on St. Patrick's Day, right before, man. I remember they shut down Ireland for the bars, St. Patrick's Day, right? I can't even imagine.
Was up. Yeah.
That's where I remembered it was the week of St. Patrick's Day is what I kind of mark as the time frame that everything kind of shut down.
We're March 13th. I remember Cole was in Florida playing baseball, and we rushed home. He actually got sick while we were down there, but he got something that we don't think was viral because they gave him antibiotics and it cleared it really quickly. But we rushed home from there, and God, that's 11. I mean, it's February 18th now, so it's almost been a full year. I have to tell you too, Josh, you've been going through a thing, so you've been busy, but the last couple of days, I just sit in my house thinking like, oh, there's the wall in the living room again. It's still there. Like I'm really starting to, I want to go outside. And then it snowed. And I was like, oh God, like I can't even wander around on my property anymore, go to a park or something. Like it was just, I am almost at my wit's end, I think is what I'm saying. Like if I snap and rob a bank or kill somebody 6 months from now, you'll be able to use this recording as this man was calling out for help. He's been in his house too long. It just you brought up a point that I can sympathize with, but I've been really blessed. Our business has been essential. It's been open. I was home for a couple of weeks dealing with this heart surgery thing, but I've had the added bonus of, seeing 1,000 customers a day and talking to people and things being sort of normal in my life. Right. And I've watched friends struggle that have, that are teachers or that own a restaurant or whatever the case may be. And or work for any of those type of things. And of course you're a stay-at-home dad, so you're a little more accustomed to it to start with, I imagine, but still it's different. It's been a bad year, and it's been a bad year for people, I imagine, that have any type of mental health or prone to depression or something like that. I mean, it's just rough. And one thing they keep asking you with the open heart surgery and stuff, I guess you're prone to depression for that. So they keep kind of like, are you okay? You feeling all right? I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. But also, like I say, I'm not home. The kids aren't home either. They go to a private school. The private school was really cool. They were virtual for a little bit right last year. And then this year they decided they were going to open up safely. So they moved all the classrooms around, ripped out lockers, and did all this weird stuff. But, they gave us a choice. Your kids can go virtual, your kids can go full day, your kids can go what they call essential learners. So we opted for the essential learners, and that's basically 8 to 12:30. They go in there and they bang out all those core classes, and then they skip lunch where everybody's a little more communal, and they skip gym, and they skip the STEMS program where they might be sharing a microscope or something, and they just go home and they do their homework. So even the kids have had a little bit of a sense of normacy, where you haven't. But my kids play volleyball. I was assistant coaching the year before this. I was kind of thankful sort of that we didn't have volleyball this year, because I'm not sure I had the ambition to assistant coach this fall. But I miss that, and I think the kids miss that. It's good. It's a good physical activity, getting them out. But for us, it's a lot of running around, because unlike public schools, it's all the other sister schools that are an hour away sometimes. So it was a lot of running to games and stuff the last couple of years, and this year quieted a little bit for us, which was like something that I think I personally needed. I agree. I'd like things to go back to normal, right? And I'm kind of sick of wearing these. I kind of prefer the gaiters over the mask, because I'm in and out of my office all the time onto the sales floor. But
everybody's sick of wearing those things. It's hard for employee morale. It's hard for the customers. Nobody, everybody wants to be safe, but nobody wants to really, just function with that stuff on all the time.
Yeah. I don't mind doing whatever needs to be done. I'm happy to do. Because my life used to be, I'd get up in the morning and she wouldn't think of it this way, but I get my wife off to work. I get my daughter off to school. I come back. You clean up from the night before, get the house in order, do a little light cleaning. I record a podcast, do some editing, have a little lunch, mess with the dogs a little bit. I go get Arden from school. We get that thing going. They start making dinner. Like there was a pattern to it. Last night at 8:30, Arden went, "Can I have dinner?" And I went, "I didn't give you dinner." And she goes, "No." And I'm like, "Oh, sorry." Like there's no rhyme or reason to anything. Like there's just nothing. There's no scheduling. It doesn't matter what time it is. It doesn't matter what day it is. Like I stood in the kitchen this morning and I was like, I was just here 7 hours ago. I don't even what do I do now? Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just ridiculous. I really need a schedule.
And your kids are a little older too.
They don't need a ton.
She's a teenager, right?
Yeah. She's 16. My son's still stuck here. He's going to be 21 in a couple of days. And
yes. So I mean, my two, like I said, they're 12 and 14. But I think about, I had an aunt that was a kindergarten teacher for like 30 years, and I sit there and I think about these kids that are 5 or 8 or something, and you go, I mean, they're kind of too young to leave at home, but the schools aren't like letting them go to school. And, sometimes like I had a buddy of mine that has kids in elementary school, middle school, and high school. And our county, I think still, I don't know, at least to begin with, they had kids going, a couple days a week, but different days for different age groups and stuff. And you're like, oh my God, I can't imagine trying to schedule that in my own brain.
Yeah.
I have a calendar. I write all this stuff down. I can't imagine this kid goes this day and this kid goes this day and this kid goes this day. The rest of the days they all stay home. Well, how do you run that?
Yeah. Listen, I can't be certain, but I also think that everything we've done for the last year has probably saved a lot of people from going through what you went through. So that alone, hopefully, like if it did, then to me, it's worth it. Like, don't get me wrong. Like 6 months from now, if everything is different, I'm not going to think back on this. It's not, it hasn't impacted me for the rest of my life in a way that I can't rebound from, which I'm also lucky about, because I did have that thought last night. I was cooking dinner and I thought, this is a bad day. I had a bad day today. I just there was nothing about being alive today that was anything, but I'm lucky that mentally I guess I'm built in a way that I can get through this and get to the next one. But there are plenty of people that can't either. And I don't know. There's
sure.
It's just
that's just the depression is real.
Yeah.
And like I was saying, I tell a lot of people, some of our employees and stuff. I mean, when this whole thing started too, everybody's trying to decide, leave the groceries out and spray them down, whatever the case may be, or, all the stuff that was filthy before is filthy now. Like a public bathroom is filthy.
Yeah.
Like door handles to a restaurant or a store or whatever, they're filthy. Gas pumps are filthy. I mean, keypads for the point of sales, they're filthy. I mean, wash your hands, right? You should be washing your hands. I don't, you're a parent, you got kids that are older now, but I mean, how many times did you spend your, I don't know. I feel like my 30s were spent telling somebody to wash their hands.
Right. Or squirting something in their
I get a
palm.
couple friends that are nurses and stuff. And wash your thumbs too, right? You wash your hand, don't put it in your mouth.
Now, I mean, obviously it's shown a light on a lot of important stuff like that. Now we'll wait and see if it sticks to people, or if 3 months after you don't have to wear a mask anymore, everybody's just licking their fingers and putting in their phone number at the grocery store again. And I can't. Right. So Josh, I had a real job at one point in my life. And so
I read your book. I'm not gonna lie, actually, I'm in like 3 chapters in or whatever, but I got it off of Amazon.
Oh,
and I started. So I heard about your real job.
Yeah, so I had a real job, and because of that, my hands are I don't know how to describe this to people who have never worked with their hands in a real vigorous way, but I don't really have much in the way of grip on my hands. So things slip out of my hands. Sometimes I'm not having a stroke. I don't think like you did, but I can't grab things.
I was gonna say you should try having a stroke.
Yeah. But opening those damn cellophane bags at the grocery store without honestly, without just touching your tongue to your finger a little bit, it's really hard. It's so
fair.
I'm like trying to blow like warm air through my mask onto my finger. I'm like, can I get some humidity? Maybe will that help? And my wife's like, don't do that. I was like, how am I going to get the bag open? I don't know. I can't get the bag open. So I don't know. It's all very strange. And that it led to any of your health issues that it possibly did is crazy. So are you going to get an antibody test to see if you have type 1? They can do that.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I don't know. Like you said, I mean, there's so much going on and so much to kind of cross back and forth between different things that, like back around, was it right around Christmas, I guess, I was at the cardiologist and he goes, who's your neurologist? And I go, I don't have a neurologist. They're like, why not? You still have this stuff with your hand and stuff. And I'm like, I don't know. I haven't had time to deal with that. Yeah. I've been focused on, it took me forever to get an endocrinologist and get in there and, see her a couple times and see the nutritionist and stuff. And the last time I was in there, I'm proud to report, like I say, she said, I have no advice for you. I don't even know why some of the settings you have work, but keep doing that. I was complaining about, my range or whatever, right? I'm like 20%, as far as, my jump from thing to thing, like when I eat and stuff, like I was trying to get it a little tighter, trying to get my line a little flatter, right. Listening to you, trying to do better, but she's like, that's ridiculous. Like when you're out of range, you're like, you hit like 132, you're not like 400 or something. So
is that the Mendoza line, 400?
Right. So, hey,
listen, as long as you're not 400, everything's going great. Well, did you just tell her, like, look, there's a man's voice that comes out of my phone and I'm just doing what he was saying? I don't.
Yeah, man. In all seriousness, I've plugged the crap out of you. I think you're doing good work.
I appreciate it.
So, and I think that, there's not really a lot of education for this. And I think that there's not really a lot of doctors that are doing this, and there's not a lot of doctors that are educated on this stuff. I've been reading, right? I'm sure you maybe, I don't know, maybe I missed an episode or something, but there's a company that's working on an insulin, doesn't need to be refrigerated. It's working on another pump that's kind of like the Omnipod. It's coming out or something. That seems pretty cool.
I saw that. Yeah, that seems a little like vaporware to me, but it's a great it's a great idea, and if they can do it, that's amazing. What they're talking about doing is creating a more concentrated insulin so that also doesn't need to be refrigerated, which helps people around the world, but you wouldn't need as much of it. If your carb ratio now is, 3 units, for every 10 grams or something like that, it could end up being significantly less, which would mean the pump would need to hold less and they could make a smaller pump, and it's going to work faster. But that's a lot of hoping and not a lot of, none of that stuff exists right now. So they're working. And the
Apple Watch is talking about, there's going to be some kind of magnetic reader, which seems like the holy grail for glucose monitors.
I can't wrap my head around that either. Like, I don't know how you're going to get somebody, like, maybe it would, like, listen, if you tell me that the average person could wear an Apple Watch and be told, hey, your blood glucose is normal, or maybe you ought to go to a doctor, like, that would be crazy. But I don't know how you'd make like specific decisions about insulin if you had type 1 or type 2 with that. I don't understand how. I just don't imagine that the technology took such a great leap and none of us heard about it. Do you know what I mean? Like,
me neither. But I have to tell you, like, our business, we've been around since 1924, right? So we sold ice and coal, and I have a hard time wrapping my head around delivering a cube of ice to somebody's like second floor walk up or third floor walk up and put it in their ice box so that they can have refrigeration, and I look at insulin the same way. I mean, man, holy cow. I mean, people were peeing on this on strips and stuff to try to get, whatever. And then now you can prick your finger and check it. And now you can wear the, Dexcom, and now the Dexcom is getting smaller,
Yeah. I'm excited. Don't get me wrong. Insulin that works.
It's amazing.
Insulin that works more quickly that you might not need as much of. That's amazing. I mean, that would just be a huge thing. There are other little things they need to work on too, like cannula technology. Like, cannulas need to be, an adhesive that doesn't, it's tough because, if you make 1 million of something and 50,000 people break out from it, it's hard to ignore what's happening to 50,000 people. It's also hard to ignore that the other million of them are not having trouble with it. It's so hard to innovate, serve people as a customer service in the moment, and cover everybody when maybe most people aren't having it's just, and the internet makes it look worse. Adhesive's a great example. Like the internet makes it looks crazy.
If I could say anything to my fellow Dexcom / Omnipod wearers, it's right in the instructions, but I think when I get on the different groups and stuff, don't you believe that I don't want, maybe it's not this high, but 90% of the problem is you didn't prep that area right. Like you didn't, like I'm a little hairy, I didn't shave it. I didn't put a rubbing alcohol swab on there and make sure all the greases, all my skin were off or whatever. And I just slapped that thing on there and then it didn't stick. No kidding.
And then it didn't, know what? And here's the other side of it is, we don't use alcohol at all to prep sites. We use warm water.
Is that right?
Yeah. We use warm water and a clean rag because at some point Arden started having what looked like contact dermatitis. This is many, many years ago. God, it's about 9 years ago now. And
at least you're cleaning it.
Well, yeah. Well, so I wrote a blog about it once because I remember looking at Arden's site thinking, God, what is this? Like her Omnipod is causing like a rash and like the adhesive, and what am I going to do without this pod? And I was literally standing still thinking, and I found myself rubbing my fingers together thinking, and I realized how dry my hands were. And I thought, oh yeah, it's obvious why I'm so dry. I'm always touching alcohol. And then I went, oh, wait a minute. And so I, on my own, stopped cleaning her with alcohol. And the problem went away. Now, this wouldn't be the answer for everybody, obviously, but for her, it really was. And then I did a little research and I found out that in Europe, if you go to your endocrinologist, they'll tell you explicitly not to clean with alcohol, where in America, they tell you explicitly to clean with alcohol. So I was like, wait a minute. And, so I started thinking like, is this just a liability issue? Like this, do you know what I mean? Like does, in a more litigious place, does somebody just not want to say, don't, kill? So we clean her really well and we just don't use alcohol to dry her skin out. And that's it.
Well, I think cleaning is however we go about it. Like I said, that's a valid point. Yeah. I mean, I don't really feel like I have sensitive skin, but I know my one daughter does. So,
right.
And going back to this technology, I have to say, I can't imagine, I know you've like literally grown, had her grow up with it, but I can't imagine having a kid with type 1. And I know plenty of people that have, and sending them off to school, right? And just kind of hoping for the best. I mean, these Dexcoms and these continuous glucose monitors, where you can control it, where you can see it. Like I don't micromanage my kids, but at the same time, I would want to know what their sugars are now, like all day long. Just like I want to know what my own are. And I've learned a lot. I'm sure, I've heard you talk about it, but I've learned a lot from just spending like the last year looking at my lines, looking at my every 5 minutes and then comparing them from day to day, week to week, looking at those reports. I've got the Sugar Mate, I've got the Clarity app, and I look at all the different ways that stuff matters. I've even compared it to my the heart rate and stuff like that because of the heart stuff. So and I've just become a data junkie on all this stuff, and I can tell what I've done wrong when my sugars go up. I have to say though, I got a question for you. Why I got you live? I've been doing great except for this year. This newfound neurologist put me on a drug to help deaden the nerve pain that I've got going. And it takes a couple of weeks to ramp up in your system. So, it's actually been like about a month and a half, but my sugars go up and they stick. And I'm pretty damn sure that it's exactly that medicine that's doing it. I mean, I'm running higher, and I'm taking like 2 or 3 times what I should have to take to bring my stuff down. And I'm not really crashing, but
what's the drug called?
It's Lyrica, which is a pretty common drug, I guess, for that and some other purposes. So I'm sure some other people are probably on it. They're listening.
Pregabalin, nerve pain medication, brand Lyrica. Fibromyalgia, neurology, epilepsy, neuropathy, spinal stenosis. Okay, it's used for a lot of different things. Let's see.
it's like for me, I mean, but it's not working. And for me, what it's supposed to do is kind of turn off the part of the brain where it's over firing the sensitivity. And, like I say, my hand feels like it's in ice all the time. So I've just been taking more and more of it. And one of the side effects is it makes you, drowsy. So, the guy's like, you'll get used to it. So, I mean, I feel really blessed. I don't have all the side effects or anything. I just feel tired and my sugars keep going up. You eat breakfast or something like that. And you do the pre and extend it. The next thing you know, you're I'm blowing over 200, and then I'll take 10 or something and it won't even budget, and then it won't crash down. It'll just settle down. But, you're like, well, what happened to that 10 or 15 units that I just gave? That's a lot.
Yeah. I am seeing, excuse me. I'm seeing a couple of like old forum conversations with people about, has anybody ever used Lyrica and lost control of their blood sugars? Somebody said, yes, I have. It wasn't a big conversation, but there were a couple people in there that said it did. There's an article. Another place, I've been on Lyrica, started getting super high spikes every day. And then some people say, I tried Lyrica, it didn't help me. I tried Lyrica, it did help me. Yeah, I don't know. It sounds like it's not out of the world of possibility that it's making your blood sugar do that. But you're also saying it's not helping for what it was prescribed for? So.
Yeah. So, I mean, the way it works is with, a lot of those kind of drugs, I mean, they start you off with a low dose, take this twice a day, this level, let's do it for a week or two. Let's double that, let's switch from the little pill to the big pill, let's take more of the big pill, so I've been gradually ramping it up, and I'd say I'm at a medium high level for what, most people would take or whatever, but it's not doing anything for me as far as the resolve. So, I'm at the point where I'm probably, next up is like, do I get a refill? Do I just tell them I'm going to stop? What happens next? We try a different medicine or something. But like I say, in the interim, that Dexcom very clearly tells me, and then I've checked it, with the regular strips and stuff. It's not like it's the Dexcom misreading or something, but it affects it. Yeah, it's weird.
I would say I would get up to full strength first to make sure it's not going to, because it'd be a shame to go through all this and not take it all the way and find out it would have helped. But I mean, once it doesn't help for a long enough time, you'd have to bail on it, right? Like describe your hand.
But like I say, before this, I was doing fantastic. I'm sorry, describe what?
Your hand thing. Can you describe it? Like it feels cold to you. Is it cold to the touch? Would I think your hand was cold if I touched it?
No, you wouldn't. It's So what I've been told is, that there's part of the brain obviously that controls sensitivity and stuff, and then I've got like a grain of rice size damage that they can see on a MRI or whatever, what it feels like, if I could describe it, my hand, which is a different sensation than my face, but my hand feels like if you took your hand right now, you went outside and you just dipped it in the snow and ice or whatever, right? You just stuck it in there and just left it in there, right? That's what it feels like.
Wow.
And it kind of goes up, radiates up to, tapering off to the elbow. But what's really weird too is it's hypersensitive. So if the air conditioner kicks on, or you're outside in the breeze, it's gonna be 100 degrees or whatever, you're outside in the breeze, and the little hairs on my arm move, it feels like like a hurricane went through it. It just feels terrible. Wow. And when I type on the keyboard, pushing down on the buttons and stuff, it's like I'm stabbing myself with little needles every time I do it. But oddly enough, like I've been to hand therapy and stuff, and oddly enough, my hand strength is fine. I have a little trouble picking up like a quarter or something sometimes, because I have a little trouble feeling it. But for the most part, I don't have any of that. It's not neuropathy. Right. Yeah. It's different because that's kind of what I thought to begin with. And I was kind of reading about, that kind of stuff, which is a diabetic issue. Right. They were talking to me about not burning my hand and whatever, but it's not, it's brain damage. Right. So then the other thing is, which kind of might go along and explain, some of the COVID stuff to other people, but there's a nerve that comes out of the brain and kind of rides the temple, kind of comes down around the eye socket and down the cheek into the mouth and kind of the tip of my tongue. Mm-hmm. This one nerve, and it's damaged too. Now it kind of feels like some sinus pressure on my eye a little bit, and it feels like Novocaine that hasn't worn off for a year, in my mouth. So, but I don't really have any trouble chewing really or anything. I mean, it's not that that's numb, right? It's just kind of like, we go to the dentist and come back and it hadn't quite worn off yet.
What's the prognosis for all this? Is there any chance of it improving for you, or is it just going to stay where it's at? Will it get worse? Have they given you any, or you haven't really seen a neurologist, I guess you might not even know.
Right. So I saw the one guy. He was like, it's not nerve damage. A lot of times with nerve damage, the nerve will regenerate over the course of a month to a year or something like that. But he's like, well, you've got, it's like a fried circuit. It's damaged. That's not. He doesn't really prognose it like it's going to improve. He's like, I think maybe we can give you something to, make you numb, sort of, not numb like alcohol, but numb like desensitize that firing of that synapses a little bit. So far the what he's tried didn't. So we'll see what happens next.
Wow. Listen, this could just be hocus pocus, and I have not read a lot about it, but very recently I did hear about this idea of retraining your brain about pain, and I don't know if that would be valuable to you or not. But the person was talking about, if you have a chronic pain and I don't know, your finger hurts, that it really is just signals that are telling you your finger hurts, and that you can, I don't know, like as I was reading, I was like, this seems like some hippie shit. But I wasn't certain.
Right. It's like the Matrix, right? Is that really chicken? How do you know?
Yeah, just pretend it's not chicken. It'll turn into a daisy. So like, I was just like, I wonder how much value there is to that idea. And the only reason I stuck to it a little bit is because I have in my life read and enjoyed John Sarno's books about back pain and general about body pain. And just, the idea that you can kind of overwhelm your mind sometimes. But I don't know that this is nearly the same thing.
Yeah. So on a completely different side tangent, I have scoliosis, right? I've had a pretty bad curvature in my lower back. I went to a guy that's a non-surgical scoliosis guy, kind of a chiropractor, did a lot of cantilever weights and some isolated muscle group exercises. And then that really helped and stuff. But I would say that as compared to the average person, I've got a relatively high sense of pain. I deal with that. I dealt with that all the time, before this. And then, I've had kidney stones before, and they're supposedly, I don't want to take anything away from any women, but the women in my life have told me they're worse than childbirth in some ways. So, I feel like when you're at the hospital and you're having open heart surgery and you get done, whatever, and they're like, how do you feel? And I'm like, I don't know, like a 2. And they're like, the pain levels are like a 2, you're like, well, I don't know, I've had kidney stones, right? That's like a 10, so this is like less than that. So
Josh, it's not physical pain, but I hear what you're saying. Like, I grew up really broke and things were fairly terrible a lot of the times, you know what I mean? Financially, around the house, my dad left my mom, like, there's a lot of things. And so, in a situation like today where, my daughter's got type 1 diabetes. She's got hypothyroidism. My wife has hypothyroidism. I don't know if I've said it on the podcast yet, but it looks like my son has Hashimoto's, and we're just literally figuring all that out right now. And it's terrible. And yet I'm like, this is like at a 4. Like, you know what I mean? Like I think I'm spending more time of my life right now worrying about other people than I am about anything else. And I could see how this would make someone, I could see how this would make someone crazy. But if you grew up in my life, you'd be like, well, at least this isn't happening. You start like going, well, like, at least this didn't happen. And somehow that makes it better. I don't even know how to describe that.
Same.
But, yeah.
I guess I'm an optimist. I don't know. I'm thinking more of a realist, but I have a tendency just to trudge for it. Right. I mean, I won't even get into our divorce or that relationship or whatever. But, trudging forward. But then, also, you and I both, and I think we both agree. I mean, we live in the United States, right? Like, really, for all the drama that's been going on the last couple of years or whatever, it's really one of the best countries to live in. And, and you go to these other, third world places and stuff, and those people are dealing with a lot more stuff than we're dealing with.
Well, like I'm not running from 17, 13-year-old boys with machine guns through Central Africa or something like that. Like it really does seem. I said to my son the other day, I was like, I know this sucks, man. I was like, but I said, if you're thinking you're going to get through your life with everything being perfect, I'm sorry that I let you think that. And this sucks and it's really impeding him at the moment, but we think it's going to be long term. It's going to be fine. And I was like, man, there are so many more horrible things that somebody could have said to you today. And so you got to just sort of keep your perspective about that. I said, plus you're going through it in a house with health insurance and people who are helping you. Like imagine if some doctor would have just said this to you and you would have gone home by yourself and not understood any of it. I was like, there's a lot here to be, to feel positive about. But I'm with you. Like I think of myself as incredibly hopeful. And at the same time, I think other people see me as very realistic in a way that could feel like, oh, Scott's like doom and gloom. I'm like, I'm not. I see the things that I see for what they are, but I don't think that any of that means that we can't do better tomorrow or we have hope of better. I don't know how I got that balance because I probably, by all rights, the way I grew up should be out of my mind.
And same. I'm pretty optimistic, but I'm also, I think I'd call myself a pre-worrier. I think I've let my youngest daughter inherit that or whatever. So we, I plan everything out like 100 times in my head, like different ways, different stuff that could go wrong with the ex, right? School things, whatever it is, all this stuff with this heart surgery and stuff. Like I run all the scenarios and just, have them all in the back of my head as I just keep walking forward anyway. Yeah. So that's kind of how I live my life.
I have to admit, I once had a conversation with my brother-in-law. We were talking about something and I started saying like, well, I guess it could go this way. And I started describing a myriad of ways that this situation could progress. And he goes, have you thought about all this? I was like, yeah, you haven't? And he's like, right. No. I'm like, dude.
Like, I mean, if you're not planning for the zombie apocalypse or something, you're doing something wrong.
Yeah, like you don't know
which. I'm not a prepper, but
yeah. I'm like, you don't know which window to jump out of in case there's a fire and you can't get to the door. Like you'd have to think about which window it is. I was like, I got the window. It's over top of a bush. On the way down, the bush will. But like, you don't know that. And at the same time, I don't prepare for anything. I just think like I'm like, does everyone not know what they're going to do if they find a genie in a bottle? Like you don't have that pre-prepped in your mind? No. First wish, I want all my other wishes to come true. Second wish, no matter what, you can't say no to my third wish. Third wish, I need unlimited wishes. Boom, I'm done. Like, how does no one see that? Right. Josh, I find that bottle one day. I do not want to go, I need a Ferrari and a pretty girl. Like, I do not want to like fall into that like situation. But I just
right.
Think,
well, that's where they all go wrong with the lottery too, right? You get all this stuff that you can't maintain. You got to think ahead.
No.
How are you going to pay for the gas for that Ferrari?
Yeah. Yeah. One day I realized that my 9,000 square foot mansion isn't necessary. I need to be able to wish it away. Like I need, I mean, I just don't, I try to think things through, even with with my son's thing, he's having an issue on the hyperthyroidism. We're not certain yet if it's a symptom of the hypothyroidism, if it's something different. And while we're figuring that out, I can see about the 4 different ways that his health is going to go. And I already know what to do if it lends down any of those paths. And at the same time, we're keeping Arden's blood sugar the same as it always is. And I just don't know, like maybe I'm not fun. Like maybe I'm going to die one day and realize I didn't give any of my free time over to anything valuable. Like when you said about sitting on the beach, I was like, that is a good idea. And then I couldn't remember the last time I was on a beach. So I was like, maybe I don't.
Right. Well, you should do it more. I mean, we have these epic sunsets where I live and epic sunrises. And I think one of the best things I did in 2021 is a couple of my friends were like, you should start a little Facebook group of, of some of these pictures. Right. And I started this little group and, now it's a little over 1,000. I mean, it's not anything like what you've got, but there's no negative comments or anything. People are just posting pictures of pretty stuff that's in the county, and nice. It's fantastic. Yeah. And it's changed my feed, right? It's going from all this news stuff to like, just some pretty sunsets and stuff. And, and I kind of tell the kids, like, like we drive to school every day at a time that, they see the sun come up over the river, and I'm like, look how pretty that, like, you have to like take the headphone off for a second, right? Yeah. And just appreciate where we live. Because it's a great view. It's a great sunset. It's a great sunrise, and I get to see it almost every day. And that's, and I don't relax enough either. Right. I mean, one of the things that this whole thing has taught me, the one doctor said I should have died twice, It's like, hey, it's that little stuff. Maybe take a moment, that whole, nonsense about smell the roses or whatever. But I mean, it's true.
Yeah. Once you realize, see, everyone thinks in the back of their head, not me. It's not going to happen to me. I'm going to live till I'm 105. Right. I'll be playing golf when I'm 96. That's not what's going to happen to most of us. But you get to hope about it, and therefore you get to ignore things because you think I have all the time in the world. And then once someone like actually shows you, oh, actually, you could give yourself too much insulin and pass out. Or did you notice your brain went haywire and your hand's cold now? And suddenly you're like, I'm going to take more time and try to check. So I'm trying to I really hope to come out of COVID with that idea at the front of my head. Just really, I want to try to, enjoy things a little more. I am going to be 50 in the summer. I mean, I had bacon for breakfast yesterday. I can't be here much longer. You know what I mean? So like, I need to just spend a little more time like that. But I just always feel like there's something. I'm a worker bee. Like there's always something to do. And I want to do something and get something accomplished. I didn't
even mention I'm on I don't even know, five different nonprofit boards, right? So I mean, besides the coaching with the volleyball and doing all of this kid stuff and actual work stuff, that I'm involved with this other stuff too. I just keep myself busy like I always have. Right. This was a real hard stop. It was a hard stop is what it was.
Yeah. My wife's going to need that soon because she's been working on the safety side of a vaccine for COVID for about a year now. And she just gets up every morning, walks downstairs to the room that she took over in our house, sits down and works for like 18 hours. And then gets up, walks upstairs, goes to the bathroom, brushes her teeth, gets in bed. And she just keeps doing it
right.
over and over again.
God bless her.
Yeah. Well, so you're all going to be because of this. She's going to be dead. And we're trying to tell her, but she's a type A and she comes from a blue collar family and there's work to be done. And that's what she sees. So you need people like that.
Right.
But those people need people to tell them to, walk outside and find a sunset. That's for certain. You're making me think of a time we vacationed in Chincoteague. Where is that? And it's to this day still the most amazing sunrise I've ever seen in my life. It was with
the horses and stuff, right?
Yeah, that place. It was the best. It was the nicest sunrise I ever saw in my life. It was so great that the following morning I got up before the sun came up to go out and take pictures of it because I thought I'm never going to see something like this again.
The place we go in the Outer Banks, and I feel like a lot of Marylanders, we have Ocean City and there's Jersey Shore and all this stuff. But I mean, I feel like, there's a portion of us that drive like 9 hours to go down to the Outer Banks, and what I like about and to be honest with you, I'm about a mile walk from the water from my house, but I'm right kind of at the top of the bay, without giving you exactly where we are, but when you go down to the Outer Banks, it's kind of similar to what the river's like here. I mean, there's nothing there. There's nothing, and there's nothing to do really. And it's somewhat therapeutic. A couple years ago, and it's like a memory I'll never forget. And my littlest, was my get up at 5 o'clock kind of person. Even on a Saturday or whatever. Now she's a teen, right? So she's not quite doing that, but we got up and, I'm carrying her out to the beach or whatever to look, whatever. And we watched some baby turtles being born. Right. And that's a good memory for her. It was a cool memory for me. And there's not enough of that in the world. Right. It's all about, I got to do this. I got to get the milk today. I got to remember to run to this and I got to remember to call that person back. And, everything's tracked on your phone. You're just running around, you get up and look at your phone right away. It's not enough looking at baby sea turtles being born. I think
my life was like that before the autoimmune stuff started in the family. You'll get to a part in the book where I just talk about going to the zoo and just sitting and watching the tigers eat with my son when he was little. And
you sound like you were, not that you're not now, but it sounded like you were amazing, stay-at-home dad. Right. And I think that there's not enough credit given to stay-at-home moms or stay-at-home dads, like they just sit around and do nothing. Right. And some of them do, I suppose. But I mean, that's a job. That's a real job. Kudos to everybody that does it.
If you do it right, it's the best thing you'll ever do. But at some point when stuff starts getting piled on you and then you have to start prioritizing, you'd be surprised how quickly going to the zoo to watch the lions eat starts falling on your list when you're like, instead, what if I figured out how not to kill Arden? Because, in the beginning when she's just using a meter and we're injecting insulin and there's no CGMs and all that stuff, I always just felt like she was on the end of a giant yo-yo, and I was throwing her towards death and then yanking her back. And then she was going back down, and I just spent my whole day just yanking her back is what it felt like. To your earlier point that, people who do this still without technology like this probably still feel like that most of the time. And it's not a great way.
I know this whole thing's going to be interrupted like 6 or 7 times with commercials, which I say kudos to them, but I'm just going to say again that, diabetic type 1, type 2, get yourself a CGM and get yourself the G6, right? Or the 7 or whatever is next, because, I know some of the other ones are starting to do it now, but I can't imagine the point of sticking that thing on your arm and not having it actually read every 5 minutes automatically. The ones that you have to manually go and do it, that seems pointless too. Yeah. I mean, the G6, I can tell you, I've got it set up with SugarMate. I don't think you talk about this too much, but I got it set up with SugarMate, and it's set up to call my dad, in the evening time.
Yeah.
Over the overnight, and it's set up to call me and set up to text my dad. So, there's been a couple of times where I've slept through the phone call, but 9 times out of 10, the phone call wakes me up, and it gives me a warning that I'm starting to plummet, and if I sleep through that, he's like calling me trying to figure out why it's, saying 45 or something. Right. So I think that, especially if you're doing it on your own, like if you're not the dad taking care of the kid or whatever, I mean, those lows, particularly those midnight lows are scary. And how do you even know if you're pricking yourself after every meal when you get up in the morning, if you're having one? Like, how do you even know? Well, I guess one day you just fall over or something, right? I mean, I think, and I was saying this, I bought a little bit of stock in Dexcom, and I'm hoping that it pays off dividends at some point when after I get done saying this. But I listened to the CEO talk to you a couple of times and stuff, and I feel like they're pushing to get these things worn in hospitals, and I feel like they're just as valuable in a hospital, if not more, than like a heart monitor and stuff. I mean, and it's easy, right? It has that remote reporting. So why isn't everybody in the hospital just getting slapped with one, whether it's laying there, recovering or dying or whatever they're doing? Why don't they have a glucose monitor on all the time?
I always think it's interesting that, you have a problem with your heart and you leave with a heart monitor. You have a problem with your pancreas and they're like, we have a monitor for that, but see ya. And, it's not required. It's a
take this pen, stick yourself.
Yeah. Hey, listen, if you feel dizzy, try to eat something before you pass out. Good luck. That's a weird. Yeah. Well, it's money. You know what I mean? It's insurance and all that stuff. But I feel, listen, I have managed a child's diabetes without that stuff, and I've managed it with it, and it's a lot easier with it. And you can
I agree.
You can be more successful more frequently. I just opened up Arden SugarMate while you're talking about, because SugarMate helped me with, I don't know if you were around when I shared my blood sugars for like 2 weeks. I put my blood sugars live.
Yeah. Matter of fact, I think it was on your group. I just told somebody the link to it because they were asking about, like non-diabetics and stuff. I go, well, you did it. Yeah. I thought it was fascinating. Right. Now it's still up there live, but it has no feed because you're not hooked to it. I don't know if you know that or not. No, it's still on your page.
Yeah. I got to figure out, I'm going to have to either just shut the page off for now or get a CGM back on somebody. I really was hoping to put it on more people, but it ended up being a little more technically an issue than I thought it was going to be. Like, it's easy for me to do it, but
yeah, while it's up, I would tell everybody to go and rewind it to December 10th or something, right, to Christmas, somewhere there's about, because you look at it, it looks like there's nothing there, and then you've got all your notes and stuff, and you're way better at that than I am. I started off strong. I started off with I saw all the ads for One Drop. And I was going to buy that, and I looked at it, and I noticed that it was actually owned by a different company, and they make a couple different meters that work with that One Drop, and one of them is a little crappy Bluetooth meter from Amazon, and I bought a bunch of strips real cheap off Amazon. I bought like 3 of them, and I took one to work, and took one to put in my car, and I was writing everything down, I was documenting everything, and that was before I got the CGM, but I think it's important to track that stuff. And I know my own limitations. Like, I'm not going to keep a journal and drag it around with me every place I go. Yeah. I need I need it to do it automatically for me. So I recommend some method of tracking your blood sugar for anybody that's even maybe pre-diabetic, writing it down and writing down what happened around the time you took it. Did I just wake up? Was I eating something? I mean, you got to have some kind of documentation.
Yeah, it shows you. I mean, honestly, I did it for that, but I mean, with Arden, I just sort of step back and clear my mind like I'm in a sci-fi movie, and just, I don't know. I've gotten to the point now where I don't need it all to make decisions. Like, I can just see it. But it's like I've been fixing engines my whole life, and you pull up and you're like, my carburetor's on. I'm like, shh, everyone be quiet. I can you start to feel, and I think everybody gets to that point at some point where you don't need it. But in the beginning, when you're figuring it all out, or if you're trying to figure out something that's going on at the moment, documenting stuff is incredibly valuable, because you can look back and go, oh yeah, like you said, like, oh, my blood sugar seems to go up every time when this happens, and I wonder why. And you start making better.
And I think the doctors, listen to what you say and listen to what the doctors say. I think another thing, which I don't necessarily advise anybody right away, is, but I mean, I think the doctors try to keep it high, right? Like if you're up above 120, I know people are going to say that's not high. If you're living above 120, if you're like 200, but not 200, I mean, that's good. It's good. It's good for you. Good diabetic. Nice job. Right. But if you go down to 80, that's not that far from 70. And then you get into 70 and 50s and stuff, and you start passing out. So we don't want that. So we're going to keep you a little high. They, in the hospital, they wanted me to stay above, like they wouldn't treat it if it was above 150, or 250.
Okay.
So the whole time I'm in the hospital, it's riding like 250. They just don't treat it. They don't want it to go down low. They don't want to have to watch you, I guess. That's my opinion. I don't know. But I think that, there's all kinds of problems going high. There's all kinds of problems with going low, and to thread that needle and ride that line is difficult. And I'm that same type A, right? I want to, close the Fitbit loops or whatever, right? I want to complete that task, I think with the diabetes, it's the same thing. Like I look at it and I go, well, he talks about it, and I look at it and I can make that line flatter.
Right.
I can, and I didn't eat the most healthy to begin with, I've tried to do a lot. I have not touched a regular sugary soda, or some of that kind of stuff, since all this started, obviously. But I've tried to introduce some more normal stuff back to my diet, right? Like I have Coke Zero and Gatorade Zero and some of that kind of stuff, and trying to make it as regular as possible. But I have to tell you, man, I rocked. I have to send it to you. I rocked Thanksgiving. I was really, really proud of it. I pre-bolus and I extended, I ate turkey and stuffing and mashed potatoes, and I portion controlled that a little bit, but I ate all this stuff, and I had a flat line. It was flat. It was fantastic. Right. I showed it to the doctor, and she was like befuddled about it.
Yeah, that is very cool. I have to say too, it's doable, right? And at the same time, it doesn't always have to be perfect. And so I think once you know how to do it, it just sort of works out in your favor more frequently, because you're taking the right steps, doing the right things at the right times, and it's leading to better outcomes. I'm not worried, but I sometimes think that people can hear the podcast just for a minute and think, oh my God, I can keep my, his kid's A1C's in the mid 5s, so I can just keep my blood sugar at 86 constantly. And that's not how Arden's blood sugar is.
It's a lot of work. Yeah, it's a lot of work. I can't iterate enough. Like, you actually have to give a crap about your diabetes to get the numbers that you're getting. Right. I guess in your case, I guess you can kind of force her to do stuff because you're still the parent. Yeah. But I mean,
well, definitely not force her, but I hear what you're saying. And you can say, look, it's time to do this now, do it. And there are times like she got a little lower last night. So how did this go? I think we opened the loop during a change for a pump. So I wanted the basal to run consistently. And she started, so then once we got her there, we closed it and she started drifting. I was like, hey, this is the time, like eat something now. Like you're 80, it's drifting down. I will. Arden, you're 50. I will. Then she drinks something and doesn't move off of 55 for a while. I'm like, Arden, you got to eat something else. And she just couldn't. And there are those moments where I'm like, God, is this what's going to happen when she's by herself? Is she just going to be like, I don't feel like doing this? And
the loop seems fantastic. I mean, that's a whole separate conversation. I mean, that's hours of your podcasts, in the past anyway. But I mean, like I'm excited about. I figured since I'm close enough, I'm not going to do the Riley link or do any of that stuff. I was going to wait it out for this other thing that's pending. So I'm hoping that.
Yeah, I think Omnipod 5 will be here pretty soon. So you just have
right.
to,
I'm hoping that it's coming out. It's kind of like it's kind of like that fishing pole with that string, just enough in the front view that I can almost see it. But and then there's two different versions of that, right? There's the Horizon, and then there's the one that's actually going to work with the Tide Pool, and I'm leaning towards that one because I have an iPhone, right? So you got to make all this technology mesh together.
It's a very cool thing that Omnipod did, is that they said, look, we're going to put out an algorithm and we're going to let our pump work with Tide Pool's algorithm as well. Like that's cool. It's just, it gives you more options, and it also helps.
Dexcom seems the same way, right? Like Dexcom's sharing everything.
They have a lot of
board for
business agreements. Yeah, because you get Omnipod 5 when it comes out, which shouldn't be long now. I mean, there's one that Tandem makes. Medtronic's going to put out a new one. I think the goal here with algorithm-based pumping is get it out, prove to the FDA how it works, and then start ratcheting down on blood sugar goals, because they're still going to, like, some of these things are still going to have blood sugar goals of like 110. And so you're going to need to, if that's not okay with you, but you still want to use the algorithm, I'm hoping there's a way that you can sort of mess with the settings a little bit to get, steady at a lower number. But once you show once they can show the FDA some real data from people using it, they can say, all right, look, if we just let them change the goal lower, nothing's going to change. And then you'll see a year or two from now, that'll happen, in my opinion. And then, then that's it. Then we're off to the races. Then people who want to be in the 5s and people who just want to be in the 6s can both wear these algorithms. Because right now, just the way the algorithms are at the moment, you take most people with type 1 diabetes who are living with 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 A1Cs, and you slap this algorithm on them, they suddenly get immensely more healthy. And and to be able to impact the masses like that is a huge thing. It's terrific. So I'm like I said,
I haven't used the algorithm, but I'd have to imagine that you can attest to this, that I mean, like doing it on my own and keeping it down is a lot of effort. If I could program it in there and kind of have it automate it for me, that would be a lot easier. And I think a lot of people take the easiest path. And I'm going to sit here and tell you that it's been listening to you has been immensely helpful. I mean, I don't even know that the endocrinologist talked about pre and extended bolus to any kind of, depth. I've certainly talked to them about it, but it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. And if people don't want to put the work in, they're going to get the results that they get without putting the work in. That's how that goes. It's just how it is. It's just like almost everything else in life. I've been trying to put the work in for this. It's a new thing for me, and I like gadgets, right? I mean, so it's kind of cool. I've got the watch, and I've got the thing stabbing me in the arm, and I've got the pump, and like I kind of feel like a robot or something.
Yeah. Dude, I'm glad you're in the Facebook group, because I want to be able to keep up with all the other stuff that's going on with you, and try to see if we can't. Like, I'm just really interested to see where this goes. Like, I can see you coming back on like 2 years from now and updating me on everything that happened. I think that would be kind of incredible, because you just got dropped into the middle of a ton of health issues in just a snap of your fingers. And you have a great attitude, which is laudable, because like you said, it can be very natural to have depression issues after heart surgeries. It could be natural to have a problem after any number of diagnosis, and you're not. It's just it's a testament to how you're built, I think. And I appreciate you coming on and explaining it to people.
I've told a couple of people, like, I just gotta, my youngest is 12, right? I got another 8 years, or 6 years, got to make it till she's 18, right? That's, like that's like a micro goal. Like it's got to go that far, like we've got some issues with mom, I got to be the adult till she's an adult for sure. So that's like my micro goal. So, whatever the doctors say, make sure the heart's running right, whatever, I'm going to do that. Make sure everything's good. But, you got to set those kind of like little goals and like kind of achievable goals, right? We're going to figure out how this Dexcom works. We're going to figure out how this Omnipod works. We're going to make this stuff do, and you could fight all this stuff, but what's the point? So, like I said, I can't tell everybody that's listening enough. Like, I feel like, I don't want anybody to think that you're just, plugging these two companies that are doing the spots for you. I mean, I commend them for paying you for this, which is fantastic. But I mean, I think you generally believe that it's helped your daughter, and I think it has, and I feel the same way. And I can't imagine doing this without the Dexcom. Like Dexcom number one. I mean, you can have different pumps. There's different arguments for the different pumps. The different technologies built into the pump, looping, non-looping. But if you don't know what the hell's going on, right? Like if you don't know what your sugar is, and it's not enough to look at it like
every once in a while,
2 hours after you eat. Yeah. Right.
So I appreciate that. I mean, the way it worked out, I'm really grateful for, because the podcast starts, it's just a podcast, right? It's not until it hits certain numbers and certain downloads that you realize that it becomes a business, really. Like now your goal is, how do you keep what you had before and nurture it along in this new way? Like, meaning, how do you not take this valuable thing and turn it into some like money gin? Because that's not what I want. Like, I think it's popular because of what it is. I want to keep it as what it is, but it becomes a time suck that is just immense. And so you're like, okay, I can't just do this for fun anymore. Like, it needs to have some financial support, and it gets enough downloads to get that financial support. Now, do I want to do a commercial for a company that I've been using forever and I believe in and I can speak about honestly? Or do I want to take, a frozen pizza ad because that's what's being offered? And so, I just feel grateful that companies that I actually can get behind are interested in advertising, because if they weren't, you'd be turning on the podcast and I'd be, talking about erectile dysfunction medication or something like that. Or I can't even tell you the number of emails I get from like, we'd love to do this with the podcast. We want to do this. We want to set up there's just one company now. We want to set up a teaching program. And I'm like, yeah, that sounds like something you want me to charge people for. I'm like, I don't want to charge people. That's no. So I delete that, right. And then, our company sells this, our company sells that. I'm close to downloads where I could give you a Casper mattress ad, and I just don't want to, I don't want to do that.
Or a MyPillow or something.
Well, I'm saying is that the podcast is very close to hitting a download number where anyone would be willing to advertise on it. So it wouldn't have to be diabetes related, but I also don't know why that's valuable. Like, I just, I can't stand behind, Jerry's doorknobs. I don't have one of Jerry's doorknobs, and I don't care. Like I just, I don't want to be that person who's like out here like shucking and jiving to get you to buy a lamp. I just want to be able to tell you, look, this is how this pump works.
And there's podcasts and stuff out there that talk about, particular products and things like that too. And that's interesting and useful. And hey, look, I know you talk about some of the stuff, and I know you can't talk about some of the stuff that you're actually, helping beta test sometimes or whatever. But I agree with you. I think relevancy is the key to me. I mean, I don't know if I think I left this part out of the story out, but like that first 4 days that I was in the hospital with the stroke, you're like, shit, I guess I'm diabetic. I'm going to have to figure this out. Right. So let me see what I can find on the internet. Flip. Oh, here's this podcast I can listen to. And, hey, this, there's 2 or 3 others out there that are interesting, sort of, right. I like yours. I feel like we could grab a beer and have a conversation like this for hours. Like, I know I've rambled on for, over the podcast hours. So I don't know what you're going to do about editing, but
I'm not editing anything. I enjoyed this. Are you kidding me? What am I editing? I'm not editing anything. I also don't know about any other podcasts. Meaning I'm aware they exist, but I've never never listen to them. There's one that somebody I have a business relationship once asked me to listen to a snippet of to get my opinion about something. And other than that, I have never heard one of them. And when I used to write a blog every day, I never read anyone else's blog either. And I still don't.
Well,
I don't want to be. I don't want to be. I don't want to be influenced by what other people think. Like I just, this is working for me. I don't, and I get my outside information from people I talk to. And so, and you know what too? Yes, I don't talk about tandem, pumps on here very often, but I've also never used a tandem pump. But when someone comes on that uses a tandem pump, I don't tell them not to talk about it. They talk about it. Like I just, I can only speak from my perspective. That's,
Yeah, and I think that's what makes it relevant. That's what makes it relevant to me. Yeah. Like, I'm like, well, he's making that work with his daughter, and that seems like a good thing to try. And I like, hey, I tell you, the Omnipod's great. I mean, I'm not going to tell you that I'm like a super athletic person or whatever. Right. But I mean, like we recreate around the water, we have a pool, like I said, we went down to the beach. To me, it seems like, and I know people will say that the IQ and some of the different stuff, but to me, it seems like, having this thing you just stick on and it puts the cannula in all by itself and stuff, and you wear it for 3 days and you throw it away, versus having to worry about breaking a pump that you only get insurance to pay for every 4 years or something. It just seems better. In so many different ways. I mean, I've had a couple of these guys go bad. I'm not going to tell you that they're perfect, but I will say that, you call up Omnipod and you're like, I had one that didn't fire up right. I had one that, whatever happened to it, and they're like, okay. And they send you a new one. Yeah, right?
Look, my daughter's not wearing an Omnipod because they buy ads. They buy ads because my daughter's been wearing an Omnipod for a really long time. And I'm a proponent of it. So it's just, that's obvious, right? And that pump to me, the tubeless nature of the Omnipod to me is game changer. And if my daughter needs to, live an extra 6 months without Control IQ, and Tandem's got it, but Tandem's got it on a tube pump, Omnipod will have it. It's going to be here soon. And we just live in such a consumer world where everybody just wants everything to be like so immediate. And I understand that desire, but I have a long game here. Like I'm not giving up tubeless to get another year of something that I'm going to have anyway. Like it didn't make a big enough difference to me. Now you might have a situation where that's not true for you, or you might put an Omnipod on and freaking hate it. I don't care. If you do, get a different pump. Like, Omnipod wouldn't even care. If there was someone from Omnipod on here right now and I said, hey, when somebody uses your pump, if they don't like it, should they just keep using it? They'd say, no, there are other pumps. They should try a different one. Like, it's not.
No.
You know what I mean?
And you've said this before, but like, hey, you know what? You call Omnipod today, they'll send you a free sample. You stick it on your body, see how you like it. I mean, it doesn't have the needle in it or whatever, but I mean, you can wear it, Yeah. And I think I did that. I got some information. I went to the endocrinologist, like educated, like, I want this thing. Can you can you get me this thing? I know I need a script for this thing, but I think this thing would be what would help me.
Right.
And you have to be your own advocate for this kind of stuff. You really do. I mean, your daughter's lucky to have you and your wife to be advocates, and know about this technology and stay up on it because there's a lot of different stuff. And in the last, decade or something, right? There's a lot of different stuff coming on the market. I mean, like you said, you were doing all this stuff, when she was little and a tubeless pump wasn't even the thing. I mean, you guys have had that, most of the time it's been available, maybe the whole time.
Well, I don't know if it's the entire time it's been available, but I can tell you that the day, and I have to go in a minute, Josh, I'm sorry, but the day that we went to her hospital to look at a pump, like there was a pump day where you could go down and check them all out. I've told this before, but I'll tell you in 30 seconds, the absolute honest to God's truth. There's conference tables around the perimeter of the room. In the middle of the room, all the pumps are set up like on display. And in the back of a fairly large room, in this kind of misshapen corner, there was a small table and someone had flung the Omnipod onto it. Like it was like they walked to the table to put it there, but got 5 feet away from the table and was just like, screw it, and tossed it against the wall and it bounced on the table. They did not even put it out with the other pumps. So it's the Animus Ping and whatever else was available back then, all with heavenly light shown on it so you could pick through it.
Oh, yeah. It's very boring looking, right? It's just a little square.
So I'm walking around the room and I get a nurse practitioner and I say, hey, what's this one? She goes, you don't want that. And I was like, why? And she goes, well, your daughter's too lean for it. And I was like, what do you mean? She goes, oh, she's too lean, cannula, too lean, just try this one. And I was like, well, this one, like, am I right to understand, like, this is the whole pump? Like, there's no tubes? And she goes, yeah, you don't want that. She pushed me so hard. And I said, well, listen, I went back to my wife and I said, this looks right to me. I said, this looks futuristic. And I kind of mused at the time, if they make updates to it, it's not like they're going to make 7,000 versions of this pump. Like, they're going to keep updating. You're going to keep getting the new one. Like, this makes sense to me. There's no tubing. Like, look at this. So we tried it. It was great for us. It was great for Arden. 2 years later, the endocrinologist pulls me aside after an appointment to apologize. I know we pushed you away from the Omnipod. We wanted to explain that back then we didn't have any experience with it. We didn't want you using a pump we didn't know how to support. So it wasn't about my daughter being lean. That was just bullshit. Oh,
right.
Great. So, so she said, I want you to know we are now prescribing Omnipods out of this practice because of Arden's success with it. And it's a big hospital on the East Coast. And so it just takes somebody, that's how long I've been with it. I've been with it since Omnipod was trash to a nurse practitioner because they didn't understand it. And I just took a leap because it made sense to me. And it still makes the same sense to me today. And I have said this openly to the people that I work with at Omnipod. If somebody comes out with something better than this, I can't tell you I won't try it. So keep innovating, keep doing good things because, I want Omnipod to succeed. I want my daughter to succeed. If someone else comes along and does something else, then, I'm foolish if I don't look. So you got to keep being, got to stay with this, and keep working at it. And they're a little behind right now, on algorithm, but they're about to catch right up real quick. So
yeah, and I have to say I'm not a big fan of carrying around this other thing, right? Like Dexcom's got an app that you can function the Dexcom with, and you don't really need to carry around their thing. And then Omnipod, there's no controls on it, which is fantastic. But then you got to carry around their thing, and I can't tell you, I've got it hooked to a tile, thing. And, but I've left it at work before. Right. And I'm like a 40-minute drive from work, and you get about halfway home. You're like, crap, I need that for dinner.
I gotta go back. Well,
I gotta go back.
I would think that this probably the only thing standing between you and not having to worry about that is the FDA about phone control. And I do.
That's what I understand.
Yeah. Omnipod's CEO has talked about the desire to get to phone control. So hopefully that comes too, because I don't think they want to be making PDMs either. I don't think that's the business they want to be in. So, if
you can tell it's an old phone, right? You know what they're doing with it. They're just doing their best to just make something work for you.
They took basically like Android phones that are blanked out that have nothing on them, and they've made them, into the PDMs, and that's not the business they're trying to be in. So I would assume that the minute phone control is reasonable and is going to get through the FDA, you're going to see it. And I think that the sooner you get to these algorithm loops, the sooner that the FDA is going to see the value in that. So,
Scott, I know you said you had to go, and I feel like we could talk. Like I said, I feel like we could talk for hours about this kind of stuff. I'm happy to come back on and, talk to you again or something at some time. I don't know what the next chapter of that story is. I don't know how it ends.
I know. I can't wait to find out. I hope it's not your daughter calling me going, hey, listen, both of his hands are cold now. He can't pick up the phone. Right. But how old are you again?
So when this all started, I was 44, and then my birthday's in June, right? So just, a little bit after my 45th birthday, I'm having open heart surgery. So that's always exciting.
Crazy, dude, that's crazy. And yet, man, no lie, if this happens to you even 20 years ago, this probably kills you. Like medicine is so amazing right now. It's fantastic. There's nothing but hope for people. And that's a good thing. So I really appreciate you doing this. I genuinely do. I'm sorry that I have to run, but we went like 45 minutes longer than I thought we would. So
right. No worries. It's a pleasure.
Huge thanks to Josh for coming on and sharing all this. It's an amazing and crazy story. And I'm really thrilled that he was willing to share it with you. I'd also like to remind you to check out the T1D Exchange at t1dexchange.org/juicebox. Spend a couple of minutes, make a difference, help out the show. Looking for those Diabetes Pro Tip episodes? They're at diabetesprotip.com or right there in your podcast player, beginning at episode 210. And if you've got a doctor that you think is terrific and you wish other people knew about, you can share that doctor with everyone listening to this show by going to juiceboxdocs.com and sending me that information. And if you need a doctor, there's quite a list there. Whenever I mention links, don't forget that right there in your podcast player, there are show notes and the links are there. If you can't find them there or you're listening online, they're also available at juiceboxpodcast.com. Thank you for listening. Thank you for sharing the show with others. Please subscribe in a podcast app. I will see you soon.